Good afternoon. It is just after 12 noon. I apologize for the short delay. It is Monday, and that means it's time for our Monday market update. And let's get right to it because what a crazy world we're in at the moment. And can you believe that it is October already? And I'm just passing the time as I'm getting my slide presentation up. But this is October, so that means this is the bewitching month. And I feel like there's some spells or some witches or some gremlins or something in our market because we certainly have some strange things going on. And as I was doing my research this morning, I kind of came up with those two eyes that are absolutely dominating and dictating our real estate market at the moment, because there's so many different variables right now, but it all comes down to those two things. So quick introduction, Jennifer Tim. I am the owner of the Welcome Home Global Group, powered by Keller Williams. We are based here in Southern California, and I'm also licensed in Texas, so in Austin, Texas. But this is primarily going to be our national look at what's going on in the market, and then we'll have a look in Southern California and 4 cities in particular to see what's going on there and see how we locally are responding to what's going on. So I have an IT background, but I do have a son who is hopefully going to get his PhD by the end of the year. And so I was thinking of formulas this morning, and this I and I, so it's certainly not a mathematical formula at all, but there's definitely the P and the A that we're going to talk about today. And I'll sort of explain what those are as we go through. And then, of course, the question that I think is foremost on most people's minds is, should I wait until spring of 2023 to list my house or buy a house? So let's jump right in. National news. Well, the big thing here is related to the US 10-year Treasury, which saw a massive jump from the beginning of the year. So started out at 1.51% and we went up last week to 3.96%. Why is the US 10-year Treasury important? Because basically when this changes, that's what influences the mortgage rates that we see. So those interest rates that we want to pay attention to when we're buying a home. And as a result, what did we see? Mortgage rates topped over 7% last week. Who would have thought when we started out in January of 2022, which feels like it was just yesterday, because now we're already in the final quarter of the year, but it's been crazy this year. So 3.25%, and then we went over 7%. I made that comment to a group of entrepreneurial women the other day, and they had no idea. They had absolutely no idea that our interest rates had got that high because they currently own property and they're not looking in that market. And then that realization of what that must be doing to buyers. So let's look a little further. So that one of those eyes that we're talking about is those interest rates. Definitely a factor right now because 3.25%, 7%, it's a totally different world. Great article that I found in realtor.com, and this was from the end of last week, and there's the reference for that. But Claire, who wrote the article, does a really good job of summing up what this impact has been or is and will be for home buyers. So we're going to look at a little bit of the text from her article. Highly recommend that you go and find it and read it for yourself. In September, national median price for a home was $427,000. Don't we wish here in Southern California we could find those? So that's actually down 4.9% from an all-time high of $449 in June. And that's as per a recent realtor.com report. So while that might seem rosy for buyers, home prices are still about 13.9% higher than they were last September. Okay, so we know when interest rates rise that demand is reduced, and then typically that would result in inventory increasing, which then should push those prices down, supply and demand. But yet we're still sitting here. Home prices were still about 13.9% higher than they were last September. Although price growth, which is how much prices are rising, has been slowing in recent months. And mortgage interest rates have surged, pushing the cost of buying a home even higher. This week, mortgage rates cracked 7% for a 30-year fixed rate loan, well over double the 2.9% they were a year earlier, according to Freddie Mac. As a result of these rising rates, as well as high home prices, today's home buyers will pay about 80% more in their monthly mortgage payments than if they'd bought last September. Many home time and other would-be buyers have been priced out of home ownership entirely. So we've got that interest rate. So that's one of those I's in the beginning. And then we've got and we're going to get to that, equals P, which is the prices, and A, the affordability. So the affordability for buyers today is a real concern that they do need to pay attention to. As we've seen, this article states that buyers will pay about 80% more than if they'd bought a year ago. As higher mortgage rates have thinned out competition for homes, properties are now sitting on the market longer. That's led to a 26.9% increase in inventory in September, roughly 155,000 more homes for sale compared with a year ago. However, that doesn't mean buyers will have an easier time finding a property. The housing shortage, which caused home prices to spike, isn't even close to being filled. The nation still has 42.6% fewer homes for sale than in 2019, when the housing crunch was already in full force with more buyers than sellers, and it doesn't look like the situation will get much better anytime soon. That's our second I. So we've got interest rates plus inventory, or the lack of inventory, equals the prices that we're dealing with, and that's led to the affordability issues. So those are truly the I and the I, the interest rates and inventory, are what's really dictating what we're seeing at the moment. So let's keep looking at our national news. The inventory is a huge one, and it's definitely worth spending a little more time. The most important thing about this chart, so this is our kind of, every year we see these little inventory increases, then it gets depleted, then it goes up again. So this is your spring down to that end of the year, spring, end of the year, spring. And then what happened in 2022? We didn't have this little jump up here. So there was no seasonal push at the beginning of 2020, because what were we all doing? We were at home, protecting ourselves from the pandemic, which was a true reality. Nobody wanted to sell at that point in time, understandably. And there we've got that issue. So we've been in a declining inventory environment for many, many years. So definitely, as far as this goes, 2014, it's actually a little bit before that as well. And then that's just made it so much worse, because look at this. We were kind of, you can see that gradual decline, but then there was that huge drop off in 2020, because it just didn't happen, because what were we doing in the spring of 2020? At home, in place, no one doing anything. And we've been battling ever since to try and recover, and that has not happened. Again, look at this one. So if we took an even bigger look at that over time, our historic perspective, this is where you can kind of see the crazy journey that we've been on ever since we had the Great Recession in 2008. We have been in this declining inventory environment, and now we're just, we just don't have enough homes. So the last report of the National Association of Realtors showed a decline from 1.31 million to 1.8 1.28 million levels. We're still going to start 2023 in a better place with inventory than what we started 2022 in, because the interest rates have reduced some of that demand. However, we really need to be closer to the 2 million, or at least I think the exact number that one of the economists shared is 1.94 million. We need that number of homes just to meet the existing demand that's out there. And of course, we've got to factor in those interest rates. So the declining inventory is a huge reason why the increase in interest rates has not caused the inventory to increase. Because again, keep in mind that most sellers refinanced during COVID and are sitting with an amazingly gift from the gods, low interest rate, and they certainly don't want to sell in this market because they have to buy in this market, and they don't want to spend a lot more money, 80% more, basically buying a new home. The price indexes year over year, so they just came out with the latest one. So the 20-city Case-Shiller Home Price Index showed a monthly decline, falling 0.4% in July. The annual index shows a decelerating appreciation, up 16.1% versus 18.7% for the previous month. So what that means in plain English is we have a slight deceleration, but we still have increasing prices for homes. So we haven't seen the situation where this is totally going to drop off and values are going to precipitously drop. That is not the case at all. We're seeing that adjustment, but we're still seeing an appreciation of 16.1%. What other asset do you own where you're going to expect that kind of appreciation? So home ownership is still an amazing way to grow your personal wealth. Talking about the price reductions, we do see price reductions, especially for properties that have been sitting on the market for a long time. Any of the properties coming to market, if the sellers are paying attention to the market, they're hiring a real estate professional like our team to come in and really advise them on what's going on with the market. They're not seeing the need, or they are not being forced to make price reductions because they're coming in right where they need to be. So it's the age-old supply and demand, price and quantity. That's what we're seeing nationally. One good thing, if we can put it that way, so the Apartment List National Rent Report came out. And one of the things that they've got in there is that basically it says that our national index fell by 0.2% over the course of September, marking the first time this year that the national median rent has declined month after month. However, please note that this slight dip in rents is consistent with a seasonal trend that was typical in pre-pandemic years, because we do know, because of the shortage of properties out there, the fact that some buyers have been priced out of the buying market, they have gone into renting or remaining in that world. And it's been tough for them as well. We've definitely seen rents going up and up and up, actually at a higher rate than other segments. So it's a real thing. So we really empathize with those who have to rent, and yet there are definitely strategies that we can employ to help you with that as well. And there's your sort of historic, nothing quite like a graph and a picture to show you that we always see that rent drop off towards the end of the year. Just like we do with houses, whether you're buying or selling, most people don't really want to move towards the end of the year. And we're in that point right now. So we're starting to see that September seasonal drop off. It's the holiday market, people. So how is this impacting us locally? Are we in Southern California truly following those national trends? And it's really, really important to look at these. So the first thing we're going to look at, because we're looking at our interest rates. So where are our interest rates sitting currently? So I'm just going to show you the rates that were shared with me at the end of last week. So this is our weekend interest rates received on Friday from United American. So as you can see, they're in that 6%. If you want to sort of pay for some points, you're going to be able to drop it down. Your 30-year fixed high balance, which is what a lot of our borrowers need in our environment. You are looking, if you were going to take out a loan through United American without paying points, you're going to be sitting right about that just over 7%. Now it is fluctuating on a, some absolutely daily basis and definitely weekly. So this is something that it's really, really important to have a good relationship with the lender. We would be honored to introduce you to a selection of our lenders that we know can get the deals closed. Another example is so this is one of the big banks, Wells Fargo. They have some slightly different products, and sometimes they are able to offer some competitive rates. And again, your choice who you choose as your mortgage lender. Just make sure that you're shopping around and finding the best deal for you, and don't feel like you have to be forced into using a realtor's choice because it's your choice. It's not the realtor's choice. So they do have some programs where they're really looking at how they can help you sort of smooth over the crazy market that we're in at the moment. So they're 30-year fixed. They are still able to offer, again, depending on what you look like as a borrower, in the 5s with 1 discount point. Don't forget you've got adjustable rate mortgages that are an option for you, and this might be something that you can do to just sort of ride out the storm while we've got the anticipated increase of rates coming at the end of the year. Of course, we just don't know what the Feds are going to do yet. They've indicated 2 more consumer price index rate hikes before the end of the year. We don't know. Again, we've just had a major event in Florida and South Carolina and Puerto Rico. So I don't know how any of that is going to impact where the Feds are going to go. We're going to leave that to the brains up there. We're just looking here. Make sure you shop around for the right lender for you with the right product, and we would be honored to make those introductions. So looking a little more specifically, again, rely on a lot of the data from Stephen Thomas. He is a local economist. He gives us an update every Thursday. You can find him on Facebook. And if you subscribe to our newsletter, he sends out a report to agents who subscribe every 2 weeks. And we have the latest report expected this evening, and it'll be in our newsletter from the Welcome Home Global Group this Wednesday. So let's see what he's saying. Now, his presentation last Thursday was obviously in response to what we saw with the interest rates. So his conversation was, so remember we had interest rates, inventory, which were leading to the prices and affordability for our buyers. And so he focused a lot on affordability. Oh my gosh, it's definitely Monday. And I wanted to share some of these with you. So let's walk through these. So look at the difference in prices. So if we take the year 2020 and an interest rate, so that was the last time that we saw these really, well, most recently saw those high interest rates. So in the year 2000, you had rates of 8%, but your home prices were a lot less. So your home price was $250,000. Average income at that time was $45,000. So your payment was going to be about 1.4, and that represented 39% of your monthly income. Today, so 2022, interest rate of 6.82%. And again, this was his presentation from last week on Thursday. Average price that he looked at, so a comparable home to the 250,000, 795,000. Income has gone up, but we know that incomes have not gone up as high or as at the same level as inflation. So 84,000. Payment is 4,155, and that represents 59% of monthly income. And a lot of us don't want to pay that much for our housing. He looked at it this way. So if your desire, because it's all about when you're a buyer, you really need to define what your monthly budget is. So how much do you want to pay? And in these examples, he's only used mortgage payment is the principal and interest, and this assumes a 10% down payment. So of course, your picture could be different, but it is really important, buyers, to make sure you understand exactly what you can afford to pay or are willing to pay every month for your monthly mortgage repayment. So just to show you the difference in purchasing power, the beginning of the year, 400,000, you could be looking at a home that was over $1 million. Now, of course, now take into consideration, interest rates have gone up, prices have gone up in that same time frame. So we're in October. Yes, that's 10 months into the year, but this has gone up really fast. So you can see as the interest rate has gone up, what you can afford to look at has gone down. So where you started out at the beginning of the year, being able to look at a house that was over $1 million, now, if we're sitting around about, so between the 6.5% and the 7%, depending on where you as a borrower end up, you could be looking at a home that is in basically the high 600,000s or low 700,000s. And if it gets any worse, so if the Feds do decide to increase the consumer price index, and then we see the 10-year treasury go up, we're going to see this rate go up again. So that is the difference between buying earlier this year and buying now. Just let that sink in for a minute. So that is going to go to, again, when we talk about should you wait until the spring of 2023 to buy, keep this in mind. Of course, none of us has a crystal ball, but there's trade-offs to be made. So it's very important to look at these and really understand what delaying could cost you in the long term. Okay, so next slide. So rising rates diminish the purchasing power again. So now we're going to look at it from the point of view, if you had a $1 million loan, here are our various interest rates. So we started out with a payment that was 4.3, so 4,352 at the beginning of the year. Now we're sitting at that same loan. If you were to take that out today on a home, which could potentially be costing you more than what was available on the market if it was available in January, you could be sitting at basically the 6,500. So annually, that's a lot more money. So this is disposable income that's basically being removed from your family's budget. So you have to decide whether that is something that you're able to do and it makes sense for you, because it ends up being a substantial amount of money. If we looked at a $650,000 loan, if your budget was less or you were able to put more down, it's the same thing. So you would start out the beginning of the year 2,800, and now you're sitting in this over 4,000 a month. Again, a lot more money that is then has to be dedicated towards your housing expenses than ever before. So what is this doing to our demand? So our demand has dropped off, but it's more a seasonal drop off. As you can see, this is where we are every single year. We're in the orange right now. We're in that seasonal decline. Number one, because it's that time of the year. And number two, because obviously the interest rates being so high have forced buyers out of the market, and that's why our demand is down. So if you look at these, this shows you your decline. So they're 7% less. It's the largest drop since the start of July. Again, interest rates combined with the holiday market that we're entering. And if you look at the 3-year average, they were 32% more, and demand is the number of properties that are in escrow at the moment. Our active inventory in our area. So one of the hopes was that when interest rates went up, the prices would come down because the demand would go down. So we would end up with more properties. They would be forced to have price reductions. We'd have more just sitting there longer, and we should see inventory going up. Well, it did go up for a period of time, and now we're just kind of stagnating. And then I see that in our weekly numbers. So in our newsletter, we actually have, I think it is 6 or 7 cities. We put the weekly numbers, and you know what? Some of them, there's even less inventory today than there was a week ago, or there may be 1 or 2 variants. So, we're seeing this. We're seeing that we're kind of in this mode right now. And the anticipation is that we're going to see that drop off again, seasonal drop off, but now we're below. And we were hoping, this purple line is 2019. We were really hoping to be able to get our inventory at least up to the 2019 level so that we could return to a little bit more of a balanced market. It's just not going to happen. We don't have enough homes on the market, and primarily because sellers refinanced during COVID at those really unbelievably low rates, and they've put equity into their homes, and they just don't want to move. They just, there's no motivation to move unless they absolutely have to, because the big question is, where do they go, and would they have to compromise and end up buying a lot less because of the prices and the interest rates that are there? Makes sense. And here again, we've got the Southern California active listing inventory and the rates, and the comparison is to the green is 2013. So this is our listings in 2013. This is where our listings are right now, because in 2013 is when we had these little spikes in rates to try and reduce the demand and increase the inventory. So what happened here? So our 2022 rates, have taken this, huge jump up here, because this is where we were a little earlier when we kind of went up and then we went down. But if you think about where we started, so all the way down here, then we've gone up and up and up, and our rates are sitting right here with the dotted orange line, and then our listings are sitting here. And whereas in 2013, here's your listings here, where we saw the inventory rising, but it started out higher. So we saw it rising and then it tapered off because of the holiday market. We're just kind of stagnating right now. As I say, we're lucky to see 1 or 2. The numbers are basically, they may go up 1 or 2, they may go down 1 or 2. They're just stagnating right now as far as listings are concerned. And then we're about to see that drop off. So it was looking good. It was really looking good when we kind of had some, not so good at the moment. And basically, this is our market time. So this is the number of days from the time that your property hits the market to when you accept, if you're a seller, a contract, basically, and you go into escrow. And today, so that was last Thursday, 81 days. And that is an increase. And for us to go into a balanced market, I mean, we're not even close. We're just in that slight seller's market still. It's that 90-day threshold before we can talk about a new category, and we just don't seem to get there. Compared that to 2007, and that was before the Great Recession, where it was 400 days. So while we are the slowest since April 2020, our 3-year average is 84. So we're basically getting to a little more of the norm as we look at that. But there's just these I plus I and the P's and the A's. Yeah, different world we're in. So there's that reminder. So for us to get into a balanced market, we've got to get to that 90 to 120 days and actually stay there of days on market, and we're just not getting to that point. All right, so let's look at some of our local cities. So it's just the 4 that we focus on. And Dana Point, slight seller's market, our median list price is 3.5 million. Again, keep in mind that we do not have a lot of inventory. So just one property can totally skew the numbers. So even though we're using the medians, we still just don't have enough properties on there to really get a good gauge. And we could just have one outlier that really sort of pushes us out. Our median days on market, 67, hence the slight seller's advantage. And we've got that. So we're good on that one. So we know Dana Point still favors sellers. On to Laguna Beach. Laguna Beach, the median list price is 5.2 million. And our median days on market is 81. So again, for that price point, if you think about it, 81 days on market is still phenomenal, when before COVID, we were seeing those were the properties that were staying on the market for a year. And we were talking about, well, if you put your house on the market today, it's going to be, 12, 14 months before you go into escrow. While we do see that for some of the properties, if they are priced correctly according to the market, they are spending some time on the market, but they're still getting offers because we have too little inventory, too few choices for our buyers out there. So we've got that slight seller's market there. San Clemente, our median list price is 1.949. Newer properties coming on are coming in a lot higher. There are a couple of new builds, so custom homes that have been built. Again, it's not like we have a new development, because we certainly don't have land to do that. But there are some properties that have been torn down, and the builders have come in and they've built some new homes. They're absolutely gorgeous, but of course they're on their high end, and that's where some of these new listings are coming from. Our median days on market is 56. So it is a seller's market in San Clemente. We're not quite following those national trends. We are still very much insulated. I feel like that fog that rolls in from the ocean that keeps our temperatures really amazing, it's kind of keeping that hot seller's market right there. Well, our strong seller's market. I won't say a hot one. We've had a crazy one. San Juan Capistrano, our median list price, 2.2. Our median days on market is 49, and seller's market. It's a seller's market again. So our bottom line, so our I and the P and the A, so our interest rates, our lack of inventory, so the inventory and the fact that we just don't have enough properties out there is definitely still resulting in prices creeping up, even though they're not going as fast as they were before. So if you own property, this is still a good asset that's appreciating for you, just not at the same rate as it was before, and that was unsustainable. Unfortunately, these combinations are what are leading to affordability issues for buyers. So should I wait until spring 2023 to list my house or buy a house? Okay, so let's just talk about the seasonality of our market. As we've mentioned, this is where our listing inventory takes a dive, because everyone's talking about the holidays. I actually saw a comment on Facebook, one of those memes, and it said something like that if you go into the stores, it feels like you need to be eating your Thanksgiving turkey next to your holiday tree while you're being frightened by the ghouls and the goblins of Halloween. So we're inundated with all those all those things around us, those consumer items to remind us that the holidays are just around the corner. And weather hasn't quite got us there. It still feels like we're in the grips of summer. Not that we're complaining in Southern California for sure, but the market, as far as listings are concerned, is going to dip. Our demand for the number of buyers who want to buy at this time of the year is going to dip. Starting off 2023, we anticipate that we're going to see our normal trend, not necessarily the same numbers that we've seen in the past. We do believe that our inventory will increase when it comes to the early spring. We normally see the highest number of listings hitting the market around about March, April. We still anticipate that that's going to be the same. We have no idea what's going to happen with the interest rates. I'm not even going to go into that crystal ball, because the ghouls and the goblins and the witches, no idea. But that's a consideration. So if you're a seller and you're going to wait until 2023, know that you will have more competition. If the interest rates have gone up even higher, it's going to suppress the buyer demand even more. So, it may cost you to wait to list your home. Yes, prices are appreciating, but with fewer properties, fewer buyers out there, yeah. I mean, you will have a little more competition than right now. So if you want to list your home today, there's enough latent buyer demand that your property is going to sell, providing that it is priced according to today's market. Gone are the days that we had the beginning of 2022 where it was insane. You could basically, pull any number out of the sky and basically slap that on your house, and chances are you would end up selling it for a lot more even than that. So for buyers, if you need to buy a home, it depends on, number one, what your budget is right now, what your long-term goals are. If you're planning on staying in that property for more than 3 years, it is still a good idea to look at home ownership. But it takes really working with your buyer's agent and with your financial advisor, with your loan officer, if you're going to take out a loan, to make sure that you truly, truly understand what you are going to need to pay in order to be in that home, and whether that is something that's going to fit with your lifestyle. Waiting could cost you a lot more. So we could have prices that have gone up even higher. We're anticipating that because we're seeing deceleration in the increasing of prices. It's not a drop off of prices for sure, unless the property's been on the market too long and it honestly was not priced correctly to start with. If you add that to potentially that interest rates could go higher, then that's really going to impact your buying, your purchasing power. So really decide if that is something that you want to do. Also know that while you may have more inventory, if you waited until spring of 2022 to start your home buying experience, you will have more competition. Our buyers come out, most buyers want to go through that process if they need to in the spring, so that they have summer to move into their home, especially if there's children involved, so that the children can get used to their new environments before the school year starts in the fall of 2023. So, it's always a case of what is your motivation? What is your need right now? How are you positioned financially to be able to take advantage of it? Bottom line, know that prices are appreciating still. This is an appreciating asset, and home ownership is still proving to be the best way to build wealth for you and your family. We had an article in our newsletter last week, which was, the title was Rent versus Own, the Ultimate Showdown, and we actually show you over time historically the benefits of home ownership. So if you would like a copy of that newsletter and you are not a current subscriber, hey, just put that in the comments or shoot us a message and we would love to get you subscribed to that. That's basically our buyer and seller. It's the normal things. I would just encourage you, hire a real estate consultant to help you through this process. It is really important. We're on your side to help you, empower you with the information that you need so that you can make informed decisions, educated decisions about how you can move forward. It's your decision at the end of the day. So whether you hire the Welcome Home Global Group or you hire another professional, just hire the right people. If you'd like to reach out to us, or if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. This is why we exist. It's to help you, empower you, as I said before, so that you have the right information that's timely, because honestly, this market right now, you have to check and double check on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. A monthly basis is basically too long in between. With that, I am going to sign off. I will not be on live next Monday or the following Monday, as we will be away on vacation and I will be focusing on spending time with my husband. And if there is any earth-shattering news that we need to update you about, we will definitely put some social posts out there for you. We just won't have a Facebook Live because I'm going to be on a totally different time zone. So looking forward to seeing you guys in a couple of weeks' time. Have a fantastic week. and stay strong. This is the final quarter of 2022. And for us in our business, it's always our busiest quarter. And I wish the same for you.